when I pay taxes, nothing gets my goose more than the fact that I'm paying taxes not for roads, not for my kid to go to daycare, not for great schools, because we don't have those anymore. No, for military contractors, CEOs to make tons of money. It's disgusting.
Yep.
Welcome back to another episode of Always at War, the only podcast dedicated to understanding why is the United States always at war. We don't know, but we're going to figure it out. We are brought to you by the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, a think tank dedicated to building a world where peace is the norm and war is the exception. I am Courtney Rawlings, here as always with my bestie and boss, Alex Jordan. Alex Jordan, how you doing?
Hello, Courtney. It's worth pointing out to the audience that Courtney does that off the dome every time.
Well, I have to say that one wasn't my best, but yeah, I am going to say I do it off the dome. I can remember what our podcast is.
Look, we got to celebrate the small victories when we get them.
I can't remember most other things, but I sometimes occasionally remember what we're doing here.
Hey, if your job is podcasting, remembering what the podcast is about is like duty number one.
Third or fourth. One is Riz.
Yeah. Riz,
2 is like vibes, like great vibes.
Mm-hmm.
3, 4, I'd say tied is like knowing what you're supposed to be talking about. And like low down is like knowledge.
Knowledge is so overrated these days.
For a podcast, I think it actually works against you.
It might. Maybe we just need to get way stupider, and then our YouTube.
One of our podcasts has like one of the like YouTube videos has like one comment, the only rude comment really like that I've seen so far. That's like, what are these people doing here? And I'm like, yeah, we've made it. We've made it. You have to have a hater in order to know you're loved.
Haters, please leave your comments. We'd love to see your hate.
Yeah.
We thrive off that.
Yeah.
We let our haters become our waiters at the table of success here on Always at War.
I gotta say, if you have like people love to say like I love my haters, blah blah blah. Like I would love to have haters because you're noticing me. It's like you Googled me?
I was gonna say we've internalized the lessons of our attention economy.
Yes, I have it's like it's a humble brag to say you have a hater. No?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I'm only on the hater side. I don't know if I have many haters, but I hate so many people. I think we're going to talk about some of them today.
That was such a good transition. You're a professional.
Thank you.
There's going to be a lot of people who will hate you. All I can say, have your haters become your waiters when you sit down at the table of success.
Courtney, I know you wanted to talk about some of our best friends in Washington, the arms industry.
I don't want to talk about them, but they keep putting, I guess, literal guns to my head and saying, look at me. I'm sick of looking at them. I'm sick of it. But here we are again. A Responsible Statecraft article. Obviously, if you're not reading Responsible Statecraft, then I would say, like, what are you doing? I saw this article and it was so depressing. I don't think we realize as a nation, at least I didn't, how bad things are in the Caribbean, specifically off the coast of Venezuela.
Yeah, man. Kind of looking like regime change war is on the table.
I think that's from like literally came out of Trump's mouth. He's like, we're considering it. It's like, geez Louise, like, can we just have like one slow week?
No.
Where this podcast is just vibes and funny jokes. It's never.
Mm-hmm. The premise of this podcast is like so solid it will never go away. Like there've been how many like new potential wars or interventions? We should do a counter of every new war that comes out since the podcast began.
1, 2, 3. Oh. I'm way too lazy to do that. So to give you a sense of what's going on there, I don't know, you see different numbers everywhere. You're like, there's a few thousand troops there already. I would say I've seen like 10,000 troops. We're sending 4,000 more. That's the last number I saw. That's what you see in the Responsible Statecraft article. So about 14,000 troops in the Caribbean right now, kind of ready for a face-off, if not a full-blown war with Venezuela. But the real winners, and what this article really hits home, is just how much money is in this for weapons contractors. And I say that because a lot of you watching or listening right now might be like myself, like, why is this happening? Like, it keeps getting thrown in our face. Everyone's defending this war. A lot of the biggest voices in DC are like, oh, of course, we've been thinking about invading Venezuela for years now. It's like, have we? Anywho's, you may be a little
they've been dreaming about it for a long time.
Apparently, like, I didn't even know that was like on the table, whatever. But it's really, if you want to know why we go to so many wars, it always comes back to how much cash these weapons contractors are making. So to just give you a sense of the just sheer numbers that we're seeing down there, Lockheed's F-35s, AC-130Js, they have sent, billions of dollars worth of those down there. That means that they've received billions of dollars for them, right? Raytheon is selling their Tomahawks at 1.3 million per Tomahawk, and the Pentagon just ordered 837 more of them. So quick math, can't do it, but you can if you take out your calculators. General Atomics just got a $14.1 billion support contract for its Reaper drones. These are just some of the weapons that are being stockpiled and built up and are part of this large military buildup. I'm not even to mention the dozens of ships. We've got the aircrafts, we've got drones, we've got missiles. All of this is, tens of billions of dollars in weapon sales and weapons buildup, just to kind of scare off Venezuela. I not always so sure how that works, but I'm sure it's working. But there's tens of billions of American taxpayer funded warfare going on in the Caribbean for unclear reasons.
Well, and that's not even including the cost of paying the soldiers who are deployed there, the cost of running aircraft.
Well, they were free for a month, so
yeah, they were free when we're not paying them during the shutdown. But it's not even considering the maintenance costs, how much it costs to their B-2s flying off the coast to intimidate, like you said, the Venezuelan government. And it's that they burn a ton of fuel. That's not no money. And
the fuel.
Well, just really quick. Who gets paid by the U.S. government to maintain U.S. government weapon systems?
Oh my God, Alex, this is what I was going to say. Go ahead.
No, I was going to interrupt you. You tell us more.
No, you tell us more.
The same contractors, right?
Yes. And this was something that I had learned before. I knew, I don't remember how it got in my head, but I was rereading this Responsible Statecraft article and I was like, holy shit, that is so rarely mentioned in reports of military buildups. I don't know, just to give a little bit more clarity, that if listeners are totally aware of the fact that when the Pentagon buys any weapon, basically, those weapons, they're very complex systems. They've got just think of your own cars these days. It's like everything is computer.
Everything's computer. That's beautiful. Wow.
Everything in these weapons are computer, or if they have rough seas, whatever, there's constant maintenance and upkeep for these weapons in order to function properly. And the owners of said weapon are not allowed to maintain the weapon. They have to contract the weapons contractors to maintain the weapons they bought for millions and billions of dollars. So whenever you see a price tag on a Tomahawk, a naval ship, whatever, you have to add in a kind of unknown cost, which is the cost of maintenance via the contractor, who basically gets like a forever paycheck when you buy that weapon. Imagine that.
Yeah.
I guess like we kind of have that with like a MacBook. Like you can't really fix your own MacBook. You have to take it in.
But that's a subject of contention. Like that,
right?
It's a thing that the defense industry lobbies for. Like they don't want the U.S. government to be able to repair these systems. Like it wants. I'm forgetting the tech term. Oh, right to repair.
Right to repair.
Like,
is what I was about to tell you. On the MacBook, like you can't. One thing that kind of Mac innovated was like a normal person's inability to kind of fix their own MacBook. And that's like a problem, like PCs, personal, Windows. I don't know how you talk about them, but the other kind of computer that are Macs, like technically, if you're like computer savvy, you can go in there and you can like fix it yourself. You can buy separate parts. It's like modular, et cetera, et cetera. Where, weapons are more similar to MacBooks. Not just that you can't buy repairable pieces, but they have made it the law that the military cannot fix its own weapons. So it's more like if, say, I bought a sweater and the button came off, I wouldn't be able to take it to a seamstress or, even better, sew it on myself. I would have to take it back to the company that built me the sweater and pay whatever price they determine is fair for the new button.
Right.
And that is how, because it would be, I would be violating the law if I put my own button back in my
sweater. And also taxpayers were paying for your button.
And if taxpayers were paying for the button.
And it costs hundreds of millions of dollars.
But for some reason, this button is the fanciest button you ever heard of, but also made of plastic is a little confusing.
Even if we don't go to war, even if there's no intervention, they make money off of the maintenance, the upkeep. They profit off of their weapon systems being on the front lines of a potential war, being used to deter bad actors. Like the weapons companies benefit. They
benefit more if their weapons break down more often. It's like, what kind of system do we have going here? It's kooky.
It's great.
Crazy.
It's great if you're the CEO of one of these weapons companies.
Well, right. And as we see almost every year when we get breakdowns of like what weapons contractors made, what amount of money, let me tell you, it's not a few $100K. Okay, it's a few hundo millions.
Right.
It's shocking what these weapon contractor CEOs make and what these lobbyists make.
It's so weird that these like industry leaders who like spend all this money like on lobbying and like campaign contributions for members of Congress, that for some reason our foreign policy is like kind of aligned with their interests and not with like what is like required to keep you and I safe. Isn't that so weird?
You know what? It brings us back to this joke you made earlier, where you're like, well, there will always be a reason for this podcast. Unfortunately, yes, even though the answer to the question of why we're at war, unfortunately, doesn't change or won't change in the near future because weapon contractors are making bajillions of dollars off of the backs of taxpayers fighting wars that make no sense. See Venezuela. But I don't know if you saw this. I think you must have, but Hegseth also made these crazy comments, just speaking of weapons. Recently about how it's too hard to buy weapons and we need to buy them quicker. We need to spend more money quicker on unproven weapons. Let's just get rid of testing altogether.
Right.
We just need to hurry up. And it's like, what? I literally see this and I try and put my head into the position of like the audience. And do they think he's telling the truth? Because we already do that. And we waste, I guess at this point, about $1 trillion. It's just pure nonsense. Like when I pay taxes, nothing gets my goose more than the fact that I'm paying taxes not for roads, not for my kid to go to daycare, not for great schools, because we don't have those anymore. No, for military contractors, CEOs to make tons of money. It's disgusting. Anyways, I'm fine.
No, I mean, it's well worth a rant. I feel like one of our colleagues, Ben Freeman, I was talking with him about this. So we were reacting in the media. He made such a good point that this is so reminiscent of and indicative of the Silicon Valley influence in the military industrial complex, which is growing. Like Silicon Valley, the tech industry, VCs, those guys like really want a piece of the military pie. And what Hegseth is proposing with this acquisition reform, quote unquote, is like very much the move fast and break things of the tech industry. It's who needs testing? Like who needs oversight? Like all of these things that are in place to like baffle like the war industry from making ludicrously bad and wasteful products that then get sent into the like field of battle and like end up like harming American soldiers or whatever. Like that is whatever. That's how we're gonna beat China, is by like reducing any amount of like oversight or like check over this industry that is like the hub of corruption and waste in DC. Is notorious for not being able to pass an audit, right? And now we're like, what if like even less people had insight into like what weapons we buy and how they perform and how they test and whether or not they'll even
let's close the offices where you can ask us about it.
And let's kick out members of the press from the Pentagon who might ask questions about some of these acquisition systems. And it's like,
no, you don't ask questions. You go home. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up a friend of the pod, Bret Stephens' most recent op-ed for the New York Times. Just so happy they have, this like kind of even-keeled guy on staff who is once again calling for for Maduro's overthrow. And it's none other than our very good friend, Bret Stephens. I know you read the article, Alex, or you read some of it. What were your thoughts?
I mean, is there a U.S. military intervention that this guy won't justify? Seemingly there is no problem in the world that can't be solved by like using U.S. military force to enforce our will on sovereign countries. And that's like Bret Stephens' whole view of the world. Is how he thought about the war in Iraq. It's how he thought about the NATO intervention in Libya that toppled the government and led to massive deadly civil war. It's how he thought about the U.S. support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. Just that, at the barrel of a gun, America has the capacity, capability, responsibility to shape the world as it sees fit. And thinking that requires ignoring the actual history of U.S. interventions. You could just look at U.S. interventions in Latin America, overthrowing governments in order to, quote unquote, spread democracy or whatever. It not only has not intended its achieved effects, it's immiserated millions. And that's just looking at Latin America. And that's just like even thinking about the last 100 years of history. And so, either Bret Stephens is stupid and he doesn't realize this, or he's aware of this history and doesn't care, because what's actually important to him is that the U.S. uses its force to do whatever it feels like, and that that's an end of itself. That it's important that we show that we can topple governments that we are at odds with, because that's what America's for.
I was kind of reading it with the same ideas. Like, well, he must know about this never working, and he does, and that's the most shocking part. Like
does he say it in the piece?
He's like, well, even the swift and effective overthrow of Panama's Manuel Noriega I don't know how you say that, Noriega in 1989 led to the loss of 26 Americans and several hundred Panamanians. But it's like, that's fine. He's like, and it might be worse in Venezuela. We're going to lose some along the way, but it's worth it. Why? Not to Bret Stephens is like, yeah, the drugs. Oh, that's horrible. But did you know they talk to Russia, Iran?
Right. Axis of evil.
He goes full axis of evil, which is just comical. It's like, okay, that's really why you want to go to war with someone? That's like, we would have to go to war with so many countries if we're talking about like people who are friendly or nominally in trade with China, Iran, or Russia. some of the biggest trade partners in the world. So he's like mad at them for that. The drugs are like secondary, and then
the drugs, which by the way have nothing to do with Venezuela. Is not a narco state. It is not a producer of fentanyl. At most, it is a place through which some drugs are trafficked. But
how did we not start there? Like, we've been talking about Venezuela for so long, and I failed to mention the fact that like there's also no evidence that the boats that were blowing up have drugs on them. It's pure like Hegseth vibes. Anyways,
vibes.
I like literally
vibes-based foreign policy.
Let's take a breath break. As I take like a deep breathing exercise, why don't you tell us what story did you bring us today?
This is something that I've seen. It's like two stories that I've seen in the news the last week that like are seemingly at odds, but I'm trying to make sense of them out loud with you. There was this report first in Axios last week that Israel was seeking a new memorandum of understanding with the U.S., which effectively those MOUs between the U.S. and Israel govern the like year-to-year U.S. military assistance to the country.
What is it?
It's effectively a deal put down on paper about what sort of military assistance will be provided.
What do we need
Israel
this year? Okay.
Yes, but they're set long term. So the last MOU was signed by Obama in 2016, and there was one before that, I think 2008 by Bush, and I want to say like 96 or 98 by Clinton. So it's setting out in the long term what the U.S.-Israel relationship will look like in terms of aid. And the idea behind striking this long-term deal is that like, the U.S.-Israel relationship generally is like not subject to the vicissitudes of partisanship. Like no matter who's at the White House 10 years from now, we can all agree on aiding Israel. Now that is in a previous political reality compared to the one we currently live in which Americans are.
What a time for an MOU re-up to come out.
Well, so this is where the controversy comes. So after this Axios report, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was asked about, is Israel seeking this new memorandum of understanding? And what was unique about this Axios report, really quick, was that as opposed to a 10-year MOU, Israel was going to seek a 20-year MOU. And so it's going to lock the U.S. into providing a certain level of military aid to Israel every year for 20 years. So like, for example, I don't have these numbers in front of me, but like the previous MOU set out like 21 billion. And that military assistance was given yearly in chunks over over that period. That does not count things like the emergency supplemental aid that the U.S. provided Israel after Hamas attacks on October 7th. The MOU is an agreement on Israel, the U.S. sends Israel 3.8 billion or whatever a year. They then spend that money usually on U.S. weapons systems. And so Israel supporters have long said like this kind of thing, it really benefits the U.S. because the money, sure, it's U.S. taxpayer dollars that are going over to Israel, but then Israel is putting those money in the pockets of weapons industry CEOs. And as a weapons
industry CEO, I have to agree.
As we all know, there are 320 million weapons industry CEOs in America. So they're now pursuing this 20-year MOU is what Axios tells us. And that includes, 20-year commitment. It would also include the U.S. and Israel doing more reciprocal scientific sharing. So like Israel being like, hey, we can help you on the Golden Dome, which is the missile defense system project that Trump has proposed that like experts agree is like literally impossible and it wouldn't work for the U.S.
Just nonsensical.
It doesn't make any sense. But the idea being that Israel is trying to both like lock in like some amount of support as the political turmoil around U.S. support for Israel gets hot ahead of the, these next couple of years and the 2026 elections and then the 28 presidential elections. But then also they are trying to address like the concerns of American firsters, right? Like, what does America get out of this? Like, they're trying to be like, oh, you guys get to collaborate with us and like, you get the benefits of our shared scientific knowledge.
The things that MAGA is looking for? I don't think so.
I'm not sure that that's really what's behind the
top of mind.
Yeah. I think it has more. I think, as anybody reasonable could tell you, the opposition to U.S. support for Israel has like mostly to do with the U.S. supporting Israel and carrying out a genocide.
Let's give Israel money to help us so that then they can help us work on science. It makes no sense.
It's not, I mean, it's like, it's the kind of thing that you can do in Washington and be like, yeah, people will buy into this, but then it doesn't sell.
Nonsense. Okay.
But so what's very interesting about this, sorry, that was an incredibly long explanation or backstory, but as soon as this story came out, Netanyahu gives this interview, which we'll show here, to I think it's an Australian broadcaster, about the report that they're seeking this 20-year MOU.
It's on the Axios news site, and it says, Scoop, Israel seeks 20-year military aid deal with US with America first tweaks. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're talking about. My direction is the exact opposite.
And so, as you see, Netanyahu basically denies the report. Like, he says the Israeli government is actually trying to move in the opposite direction, where Israel is considering no longer taking U.S. military aid.
Wait, I was not expecting this turnaround.
Yes, it's fascinating.
It makes most sense to try and sign a 20-year deal now. You have your bro in the White House. Everyone is like, pretty, a larger and larger portion of the American people do not want to send any more money to Israel. Sign the 20-year deal now. What is Netanyahu saying?
Right. That, like, you're exactly right. From a political perspective, you think they would try and sneak something like below the radar now. It seems like sentiment towards Israel is only going to get more negative in the U.S., particularly as, like, Israel continues to carry out this sort of slow motion displacement of Palestinians in Gaza. Like it's not, there's not like good opinion on the horizon for Israel. But yeah, Netanyahu says, this isn't actually something we want. And the Israeli government has they're sending out these conflicting signals. We're seeing reporting that both says that Israeli government is considering, in fact, trying to wean itself off of military assistance from the U.S., and they're pursuing the 20-year MOU. As of Tuesday, the 18th, and we're recording this, unclear what's happening. But the counter signal from Netanyahu and crew is super fascinating, because to me, this shows just how dire the situation is. Like, Israel is like a economically capable country. If it did not get the military assistance from the U.S. in terms of like U.S. taxpayer dollars to purchase U.S. weapon systems, it would still purchase U.S. weapon systems. The U.S. is absolutely going to continue to supply Israel with military hardware, and in fact, with like the sort of like defense cooperation and commitments that allows Israel to act belligerently and aggressively in the region. But they are considering, because of the optics of how Israel is dependent on the U.S., like they're considering cutting off or no longer taking this military aid so as to stand themselves up as like, yeah, we're not the junior partner here. We don't rely on you. Like, which to me is like that direct response to the sort of understanding in the U.S. that, what Israel does, and this is a correct understanding, is like directly underwritten by U.S. taxpayers. Like, so it's trying to strike at the heart of what this opposition is. And also, there are elements of the pro-Israel crowd, both within Israel and
outside,
like Laura Loomer, our friend of the pod.
I was about to ask you about the Laura Loomer comments.
Yes. So like Laura Loomer comes out and is like, yeah, U.S. aid to Israel should end, which again, this is like, it feels confusing coming from like a super pro-Israel person, somebody who has made like has not been embarrassed to be like shamelessly pro-genocide and like spread some like really terrible anti like Muslim bigotry like constantly, and just like constantly doing fear mongering and
it's her thing.
Yeah, it's her thing. And so she posed it as like the U.S. Aid to Israel is like golden handcuffs, that the U.S. by providing this money to Israel, the U.S., because of its investment, it gets to then have a say in how Israel carries out its policy. And so the idea would be, the U.S., and this comes from an alternate universe where
it's so cute. Like the idea that you could, it's not cute because it assumes a stupidity on the behalf of the American people that is so incredibly offensive, as if we don't know that we just hand Israel globs of cash, globs of weapons, and they do whatever they want. Remember the Rafah red line?
Right.
Remember any red line?
Right.
They just stomp right over it. But that's fine. That's fine, Laura.
No, but that's exactly right. That they look back at the 2 years of genocide that the U.S. like armed, enabled, made, defended diplomatically. We did everything to make this possible and to defend them doing it. They look back at that and they're like, damn, like how much more quote unquote effective could our war have been if we didn't have to constantly answer to the Biden and Trump administration's
insistence that we make fake ploys to feed a starving population.
I mean that's where it breaks down. It's like, what is it that you were frustrated about? You were frustrated that like
obvious
you
that
didn't
we
even
did
want
everything they want. Like, please.
You didn't want Antony Blinken going up there and being like, we're really sad that like Israel keeps using all of our weapons to keep killing people, because that's what that was. It was not effective. But again, the pro-Israel case here is that the pro-Israel case is, look, like if we don't take their money, they don't have a say in how we conduct ourselves. And again, that's like bullshit. Because
it's bullshit.
Like,
so what is the real reason though? Because
there are U.S. forces in the the U.S. collaboration with Israel, defense and military wise, is like, I would say like very deep, and like they're woven into us collecting intel in the region, and we're woven into their strategy, and we count on them as like a counterweight to Iran, and like there's so much back and forth. There's not as much opposition as there is to the course of the U.S.-Israel relationship in America. Washington is still pretty much on board with like
it's 100%
having
on
their
board.
back. And so
like they'll give them $60 billion next year. Like what? So what? That's why I'm a little confused, Alex. Like why? There's no universe. If I know Israel, there's no universe where they shoot their own $27 billion foot. Why are they pretending to want to do that? What's going on, really? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the question. There's a great Responsible Statecraft article. We'll put it up on the screen that people should check out.
You're telling me RS to get hitter after hitter. I haven't seen this article.
Yeah, this is from Connor. I want to say yesterday. But this is the big question. Like, it's not the smartest strategy to just throw away money that would be coming to you, right? Again, the question is like, how much of this is like an optical ploy / an admission from Israeli leadership that the politics on Israel and America have changed, that it might hurt Israel more to take this money from the U.S. that it then spends on U.S. military hardware, and being open to attacks of, all these Israeli wars are really just U.S. wars. It might benefit them more to take that attack off the table so that they can say, we're standing up independently. This doesn't have anything to do with the U.S. And this is where I don't get it. Is like, you're still going to see U.S. made bombs being dropped on kids' heads, in a future.
As most bombs are.
Most bombs
that fall on children's heads, they're U.S. made, just in case anyone didn't know.
Yeah, a lot of them are. And
so in the same war on opposite sides.
And to your question, this is what makes it an interesting topic of conversation. Israel, from its perspective, it was annoyed that Biden and Trump put the barest, and Trump, we could talk about this, like
barely,
but like you could argue at the end of it that Trump ended up putting more pressure on Israel to end the war than Biden ever did. But they're now concocting this fakakta, peace plan that is like really bad prospects. We talked about it with Laura Friedman.
That has shown no peace. Please go back and listen to that episode on the ceasefire. It will shake you to your core if you are, for some reason, listening to this podcast and don't know that the ceasefire is not a ceasefire. Anyways, continue.
No, but that like Israel resented being asked in the first place by like Biden or by Trump, like, hey, so like, why did you like bomb that hospital or whatever? Like, they don't even want to have to be asked. Another thing that they say is they want to build up their defense industry. And if Israel is dropping Israeli bombs on Gaza, this creates sort of something to think about in the future.
That's
is that
interesting.
Like a lot of Americans were really activated by their country's role in Israel's slaughter in Gaza.
Their role, but also their unending excuses. We voted against any referendums that would at the UN, especially, that would even kind of keep them a little bit responsible. Yeah, of course.
But so, like, I think you could view whatever happens, whether or not there's this 20-year MOU or Israel is weeding itself off military aid, completely opposite end of the spectrum outcomes, right? Like, either are ways to future-proof how Israel
Future wars, yeah.
to future-proof Israel's conduct from international meddling. Like, either Israel through the 2048, which would be the 100-year anniversary of the creation of Israel, the displacement of Palestinians. That's how long the MOU would take them. So they're either going to future-proof U.S. aid to Israel by guaranteeing it for the next 20 years. So no matter what political changes happen, there will still be money flowing into the coffers that they can then use to turn around and purchase U.S. military weapons. Or they future-proof their ability to conduct, wars of aggression in the region by saying, hey, like, you don't even, the U.S., you don't even really have to give us that much. You don't have to give us military aid anymore. You don't have to give us, you haven't had to give us economic aid in a while.
Yeah.
All we ask from you is a simple defense partnership as, two nuclear armed states, and our interests are shared. And you guys better have our back if we decide to go to war with Iran. Either way is a way to navigate the reality, the new reality, where Israel does not just get de facto support no matter what from the U.S.
Pretty interesting story. I'm interested to see how it unfolds.
As always, like, trying to think of an upbeat note.
No. Let's leave everyone on the brink of tears.
Oh, well, here, we'll leave you hanging with something. As you guys might have noticed, we're trying out a couple new episode formats. We're hoping to bring you guys some fantastic podding in the coming months. So if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please make sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review. What do you want the review to say, Courtney?
What is this beautiful genius doing only speaking to me? I wish I could see her. And then to which I would respond.
To which you would respond.
Go to our YouTube.
Yeah.
We are also on YouTube at Quincy Institute. Where you can watch us, you can watch the podcast. We'd really appreciate. That's where we are putting so much effort, is to bring a visual fun. We see trends, we know them, and the trend is on YouTube. So go on there, subscribe to the Quincy Institute. We also have tons of other cool content that we're constantly pushing out that include this podcast. This is just one of the bajillions of things that Quincy Institute does. Like and subscribe there. There you can leave your hater comments.
Well, I really would love to hear from the haters. I mean, the friends, but also the haters.
It's like there's nothing does more for my sense of self than a hater comment, because I'm like, oh my God, like, I just love the attention. Whereas when people leave nice comments, I go, oh, they're just,
Well, do you know what?
Nice.
Here, I've got a little tease for people who've listened to our whole episode.
Oh gosh.
We're talking about and looking towards doing a mailbag episode one day.
Yes.
Because we've started to get some feedback from listeners that we'd love to address and respond to. So while you're leaving a comment, hater or otherwise, leave any questions, comments, things you think we should cover that we haven't covered, things we got wrong, things you agreed with, and you just want to tell us how much we're smart and great. We love that too. But yeah,
we like it. Yeah,
we like it. But yeah, we need your feedback and questions. So we
this is one episode type of many to come. One might include the mailbag. We already do interviews. This is our news talking points episodes. So, and if you have any new ideas of other podcast episodes, content, anything you'd like to see, please let us know. And we'll talk to you soon.
Hell yeah! Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Peace.